if I ever looked at that page before.
Remember this book?
Alleyway. Okay.
You guys remember this book? Short Second Life of Bree Tanner.
Mm-hmm.
Hi everybody.
Well, hello there.
This is a very special
Smart
something inside another guy sticking in.
You heard it. We're sticking a guy right in there.
Sometimes I say things and then I hate myself. And then I forget that I said them, and then people are like, oh, hey, by the way, you said this thing. And I'm like, I did?
Yeah, it's a problem. Take two.
I don't remember what we said.
I don't know either. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
And welcome to the extra episode of Remember Twilight. Remember Eclipse Edition, but actually remember Short Second Life of Bree Tanner.
Whoa.
Episode.
Jeez, that's
as they
really
call
good.
it.
I love that episode.
Thank you. For those of you guys who don't know what the Short Second Life of Bree Tanner is, it's a little short story that Stephanie Meyer released after Eclipse came out, and it's about the vampire Bree, who we meet in the battle, but we only meet her very briefly, and then Stephanie just started writing her story, and so I'm going to read a little bit of the introduction to you so you kind of know what's going on. From the intro. Writing Bree was the first time I'd stepped into the shoes of a narrator who was a real vampire, a hunter, a monster. I got to look through her red eyes at us humans. Suddenly we were pathetic and weak, easy prey of no importance whatsoever, except as a tasty snack. I felt what it was like to be alone while surrounded by enemies, always on guard, never sure of anything except that her life was always in danger. I got to submerge myself in a totally different breed of vampires, newborns. The newborn life was something I hadn't ever gotten to explore, even when Bella finally became a vampire. Bella was never a newborn like Bree was a newborn. It was exciting and dark and ultimately tragic. The closer I got to the inevitable end, the more I wished I'd concluded Eclipse just slightly differently. I wonder how you will feel about Bree. She's such a small, seemingly trivial character in Eclipse. She lives for only 5 minutes of Bella's perspective, and yet her story is so important to an understanding of the novel. When you read the Eclipse scene in which Bella stares at Bree, assessing her as a possible future, did you ever think what has brought Bree to this point in time? As Bree glares back, did you wonder what Bella and the Cullens looked like to her? Probably not. But even if you did, I'll bet you'd never guessed her secrets. I hope you end up caring about Bree as much as I do, though that's kind of a cruel wish. You know this, it doesn't end well for her. But at least you will know the whole story, and that no perspective is ever really trivial. Enjoy, Stephanie.
Amen, Stephanie. That's a beautiful thing to say. The fact that she says that no perspective is ever really trivial is so beautiful.
Yeah, super important to realize that everyone else is living their own lives and has things that are important to them and people who love them.
I mean, I sit around and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this person thinking of me? What is this person thinking of me? What is this person da-da-da? Guess what? They're not really thinking of me. They have their own perspective on life, and they have their own things that they're thinking about, and that's true for every single person. I love that. So, it's Wednesday.
Thank you.
The Wednesday before graduation.
Cool.
For Bella.
Yeah.
So while Bella is taking her finals, fussing about having a graduation party, wishing she wasn't being babysat, and dealing with Jacob, Bree is living this terrible vampire life.
Yeah, when we first meet Bree, she is 3 months a newborn.
Oh, man.
So she's still very, very new to her vampire life.
And unfortunately, she has to hang out with all of these idiot newborns.
Oh my gosh, that's all she talks about basically this first little chunk is how literally, like, dumb these other 2 vampires are, and she, like, can't get over it. She's like, they're stupid, they're dumb, they're annoying, they're dumb, they're so dumb, they're so dumb.
Well, and she feels that way about all of them. So the first thing she does is look at a headline on the newspaper, and I can just imagine her, like, with a hand on forehead, just being like, oh my gosh, because it's like, Seattle under siege, death toll rises again. And she's like, oh, I haven't seen this one yet, and Riley is going to lose his mind.
Well, we pick up with Bree in Seattle, And it's nighttime, and she's out hunting with some of her fellow newborns. Two of these newborns Bree describes as useless, stupid, and dangerous. And these guys, instead of like actually hunting and be doing what they're supposed to be doing, they're arguing about which superhero would be the best hunter.
Yeah, they're kind of stuck in the, they've got like the Spider-Man thing going on where they're climbing up things, they're climbing up the wall, and I'm like, man, I wish I was a vampire. But she's like so frustrated, and she's, are we ever gonna hunt? You know, she's just like bored now. Then she sees this other guy.
Yeah, this other vampire, the
Diego.
fourth person, Diego. And all Bree knows about him right now is that he's older than all of the rest of the newborns.
Right, but he is looking at her. And she's like, well, he must have heard me sigh. And so she looks away, but what she doesn't know is that he's interested because she doesn't act like these idiots.
Mm-hmm.
She's not being the idiotic newborn that he's used to seeing.
Right. Just then a car pulls onto the street where they're all hanging out at. And one of the idiots, we learn his name is Kevin, he steps into the middle of the street. And he does his best Hulk impersonation where the car's coming at him and he grabs it by the bumper and just swings it over his head and then slams it into the ground behind him.
Kevin!
That's pretty rude. But remember, humans don't matter.
Oh, yeah.
They're just walking food, basically.
Do you think it's interesting to see that stupid, immature people remain so even after changing into beautiful, mythical creatures?
It's kind of annoying, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, their stupidity gets amplified. And the woman driving the car, of course, begins to scream. And Diego tells them that Riley said that they need to lay low. But they're like, whatever, is Riley even here?
Said.
Yeah. Since there's only one body in the car, Bree immediately holds her breath because she doesn't want to have to fight over this one person with these two idiot boys. And Diego takes off running, and so Bree follows him.
Right, but it gets really dark, and I some of the imagery is really gross. I mean, the way that they talk about the way they're just treating these human bodies, like, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
Stephanie got real dark real fast.
It makes me really excited for Midnight Sun.
Me too.
Can't wait.
Me too.
Yeah, so, like, these boys are just, like, grab human, pull out of car, rip in half, share.
Yeah, it's really disgusting. So Bree, here's where we first learn that Bree is strong enough to resist this kill.
Yeah.
At only 3 months old.
3 months.
Which, as we've learned from Eclipse, it takes about a year for newborns to kind of chill out.
Mm-hmm.
No, at 3 months, she's strong enough to resist the kill, even though it's right there in front of her. And she sees Diego later dazing out of there, and she decides to go with him.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really cool.
And this is, like, also a part of her, like, self-preservation that she had when she was a human, too.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I don't want to have to get in a fight with those people because I know I'm probably not going to win it.
Yeah.
And so if I want to stay alive, I have to get out of here. So it's kind of cool that she was, like, a pretty scrappy person as a human, and that has, like, helped her as a newborn vampire, too.
Right. So Diego runs for miles.
Miles across the rooftops.
And she is going around him. She's like, is it him that says, idiots, like Riley wouldn't give us instructions for a good reason. Self-preservation, for example. Is an ounce of common sense too much to ask for?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bree,
Obviously.
though, she's like, dude, I'm so freaking thirsty. My throat is on fire. When are we going to eat somebody? And so Diego's like, yeah, I just wanted to get away from the idiots first. And Bree's like, why is this dude so, like, normal?
Okay, so Diego, you guys, and I've read this book before, but I didn't realize that Diego is a super awesome, important character.
Mm-hmm.
And as is the tragedy of being a newborn vampire, we lose him very early on, and he's so good. So when I was first learning, I had a lot of the same, like, I don't trust him that Bree has, because I'm like, how can you trust anybody? But everything that he does is good, and he just wants to be friends with Bree.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, so he compliments her. He's like, you did pretty good for being able to run away. for only being 3 months. And she's like, well, yeah, I didn't want to get mixed up with the other two. And so Diego's like, amen with that. And then Bree, again, just notices, like, how normally he's talking and how he's just having a regular conversation when, like, all that's on her mind is just how thirsty she is. So she asks him how long he's been with Riley, and he tells her that it's been 11 months. And she's like, whoa, you're the oldest person besides Riley around then. Aside from Raoul, who's in charge of the idiots, I guess.
And is an idiot.
Also is an idiot. Diego then points out that there's 3 people on the street below them who seem to be arguing. It's 2 women and a man. And Bree assumes that they are sex workers, and these must, of course, be the kind of people who Riley wants them to be going after and targeting, which are the people who won't be reported missing.
Right.
Newsflash, though, guys. People who engage in sex work do have families.
Yeah.
And people who love them, and they're not any different than the rest of us.
Right. And I don't think that this is Bree. This isn't her narrative. This is obviously, Riley's narrative that he's been told by Victoria. But this is a classic tactic used by serial killers. And from all of the listening and reading that I've done, one of the reasons that serial killers get caught is that they think that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they think to themselves, oh, this human who I've just found, nobody will miss this person.
Mm-hmm.
But then when that family misses that person and they put up every bell to find that person, luckily, some of the time, these serial killers get caught.
Yeah.
Because these people have families.
Yeah.
These people have kids and they have husbands. I know that that's like a surprise to some people, but these people are married. They have families. They have relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And we cannot just assume that they won't be missed.
Yeah.
Just because they're sex workers.
Exactly. And Bree still does what Riley says, though, so she's just going along with it because it makes sense to her to not call attention to themselves.
Right.
After all, she didn't know about vampires when she was a human, so the vampires must be discreet for a reason. Of course, with a bunch of newborns, they all are going to make mistakes. And every time that Riley finds an article in the newspaper, he goes home and he yells at all the kids. And he starts breaking stuff, and people start ripping arms off and lighting each other on fire.
Oh my gosh.
And then Riley just has to, like, start the whole process over again. And so Bree's like, I guess we're being careful, but nobody's being careful, so what's the point?
Oh, man.
It's really annoying to be the only one following a rule that you find important when no one else is following the rule.
It's so annoying. I literally cried for like 20 minutes yesterday because I was like, we're doing all of this stuff to stay safe and to not catch and or spread a deadly virus that I'm not specifically worried about dying from, but I know lots of other people will die from it and are. And yet I still see pictures of people like just going to huge parties and having lots of fun and all this stuff. And so I get really like sad because I'm like, I want that also.
Yep.
And then Mark's like, he's like, we are not going to regret this.
Right.
I'm like, okay.
Are you sure? Yeah,
I
it's
know.
hard. It's so hard
I know.
to not just be angry at that point at everybody, which Bree is. She's so
mad.
angry at all these other newborns. Diego does a very big sniff of the alleyway, and then he enters his hunting mode.
He does like a cat butt shimmy.
Yeah, and then he jumps off.
Crouch and a pounce.
Yep, so Bree also does a sniff, wiggle, pounce. And they go eat. Diego goes after the dude. Bree grabs one of the girls. And when she finishes hers, Diego's already done with the dude. And she's like, oh no. Am I going to have to fight him for this third girl?
I know, because she's like, the problem with humans was that they never had enough blood in them. And I always say that.
Not enough blood and not enough stomachs.
Just, we need more blood, we need more tummies.
Yes. Diego just offers her the girl, though. He's like, you can have her. And she's like, are you sure? That seems like a trap.
Well, and here's we learn something about Bree as a human being, not just a vampire, where she says, I couldn't remember anyone ever giving me sympathy before, so I wasn't positive what it looked like.
So sad.
Yeah.
So she grabs the body and, like, runs back a little bit, and he's still just being, like, normal. So she eats this other girl.
Until she has blood literally like sloshing around her belly. She's so full.
And she also notices how clean this girl's blood tastes. Because most of the people that they go after have either like drugs or alcohol in their system and they can taste it in the blood. And so that just makes her even more suspicious of like, why did Diego give me a good person to eat too?
Wow.
Super weird.
So he's like, you looked like you needed it more than me. I remember how hard it was in the beginning. And she goes, does it get easier? And he goes, oh, in some ways. And then they look at each other for a second. And that's like the beginning of their like, they're going to be friends.
They have to dispose of the bodies though. And
This
so,
is so gross.
Diego suggests that they stick them in the sound. And so they pile them onto their shoulders, get back onto the roof, and run to the waterfront. And then they dive into the water. And this water is not, like, super awesome. It's kind of gross.
Yeah, it's
They
just
dive
full of
in.
garbage and stuff.
Swim, 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 all the way down to the bottom. Diego grabs a big boulder sitting on the bottom and lifts it up. And then they shove all the bodies in the hole. And then he puts the rock back on top and kind of squishes it down so the bodies will stay in there.
Did you have any idea that Stephenie Meyer could be so dark?
I love it.
I love it too.
It's amazing.
It's very amazing. This is a whole other perspective that we get from her that gives this whole other view of how she sees things and how she can write about different things. Like, people do not give her the credit she deserves. Also, you know there's going to be a foot coming up onto the shore from one of these people in a couple weeks.
At least a boot.
Foot in
least a
boot.
boot. Because the night is still young, they decide to go and kill a couple more people who they describe as homeless, and therefore, again, no one will miss them, which is,
it's so,
again,
so sad. I
not
hate
correct.
it. I mean, they're families, right? Yeah.
So they eat them, put them under a different rock,
Gross.
and then they... Oh, next page.
So Bree is starting to feel comfortable with Diego at this point.
Yeah. So they put these other bodies squished in, and Diego goes for a high five underwater, and Bree's like, I guess, boop, swim away really fast. And then they go back up to the surface, and Diego just starts laughing, and he's like, that was the worst high five ever. And she's like, I didn't know if you were going to try to pull my arm off. And he's like, yeah, good point. Anybody else would have. Diego then says that he should be good for a while. He doesn't need to go eat anymore. And Bree's like, man, that must be nice because I can only go a couple days before I get thirsty again, but Diego can go a couple weeks. So that's something to look forward to at least. But she'll have to, of course, come back out with those idiot vampires again. And Diego's like, well, I'll come with you if you want.
Yeah.
Because Diego is chill.
He's chill and he wants to hang out with her. He wants to hang out with somebody who's not a complete idiot.
And speaking of them, that reminds me, do you want to come run an errand with me real quick? She's like, yeah, sure. So they run back to the place where the idiots left their pile of cars and bodies.
Yeah, they go back to where Kevin and Company, the world's worst law firm, left their mess.
Yes, they have just piled up 3 cars right on top of each other and then left a bunch of bodies like around the car pile. And Diego's like, can you be any more obvious? So him and Bree rearranged the scene to look like it could have just been a really bad car accident, and then they light everything on fire. Let's see. He thanks her for helping, and then he sees if she's ready to go back to Riley yet, and she's like, no, thank you.
She does not want to go back home. She feels awful there.
Yeah. And she's like, can we go get more books, actually? And he's like, totally. I need some new music anyway. So they get back on the roofs, run to Barnes & Noble, break in.
And you know what? She just finished all of Shannon Hale's books.
Yeah, done with those.
I love Shannon Hale.
She's moving on.
And then I was like, wait a minute, are Stephenie and Shannon Hale friends?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, she totally gives her acknowledgement in the back of the book. I love Shannon Hale.
She's awesome.
You guys should read Shannon Hale books. They're very, very good. They're girl power heavy good books.
Yeah. So Bree goes and just takes the next...
It's easy for you to say.
Bree goes and takes the entire next shelf of books to read and goes over to find where Diego went, and he's just sitting at a table looking at the CDs that he picked out, and she's like, why is he so normal? This is so weird. The last time I sat at a table across from someone was the day I met Riley.
That was the worst day of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And then Diego's like, how come I never noticed you around the house? Where do you hide? And Bree has figured out something very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this vampire named Fred.
Freaky Fred.
And he's... Nobody can look at him.
They can't look at him without literally wanting to, like...
They're like...
die.
They're vampires.
From being grossed out.
But every time they see him, they're like, what? They like want to throw up.
That's like so the best vampire power I can think of having.
How cool is Fred? Because he's like, see that couch over there? Mine.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's taken the entire couch.
Yep.
He sends out his creepy, gross vibes for everybody. And Bree's like, I'm going to sit behind you. And so she climbs behind him, behind the couch, and just reads books all day.
Uh-huh.
And so nobody even knows her.
No, yeah.
I love it.
It's super cool.
It's so cool.
Yeah, so she's like, well, yeah, I sit behind Fred all the time. And he's like, yeah, that makes sense. He tells her that Fred is one of Riley's favorites because, get this, I overheard a phone call with her. And I learned that Riley is trying to find vampires who have skills. Bree's like, oh, that's cool. Did anyone else get mentioned? And he's like, apparently Raoul has some kind of magnetism thing where he attracts people who are not smart.
Here's what I think, though. I don't think Raoul is special. I think he's just loud. Those are two different things.
Easily confused.
They are
Confidence
easily confused.
With arrogance.
Think of it.
Mm-hmm.
Think of all the people who are in leadership and who people think they're special, but I'm like, no, they're not special. They're just obnoxious, and people confuse that.
Totally.
That's what I think about Raoul. I don't think he's special.
So Diego's like, yeah, apparently he has like this power, and apparently that's special, and they need him because something is coming.
And they need a leader.
Diego asks Bree if she's ever thought about why Riley asks them to keep a low profile, and she's like, are you spying on me? I don't really care either way. And yeah, actually I was just thinking about that tonight, and how, let's see. And then Diego says that they're obviously not the only vampires in the world and that there must not be that many. So then why would she be making so many of us?
Yeah, so okay. I love this. I talk about this a lot in the next couple of sections that we've mapped out in this book. But Diego is obviously like, he's older and he's been around and he's been watching Riley very carefully. He likes Riley. He thought that Riley was his buddy. But Riley's just keeping all these secrets. And so Diego has had a lot of time to think, why is Riley keeping all these secrets? And now that he's found somebody who he's like, well, she's kind of calm and she seems pretty put together and smart, maybe I can test the waters and see what she thinks about this. Now, the thing about Bree is that she is just always suspicious, and I have to think that, like, this is a carryover from her human life, which was terrible. We'll learn about it in a little while. But she just doesn't trust anyone. She believes everything that Riley says implicitly. But now comes around Diego, who is totally different, totally chill, totally cool, and he's like, well, why do you think that we have to do these things? So this is the very first time in the 3 months that Bree has been like, oh,
I could think about something?
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Why? It's so cool. I love it.
Yeah, she thinks about it for a second. She's like, well, yeah, Riley doesn't even like us. And this girl has never even introduced herself to us. So, good point, Diego. Why indeed? She asks him why. Wait.
No, he goes, want to hear what I think?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, yeah. And then here he comes. He's got a bunch of theories and questions.
Yes, he's like, I think that there's something coming that she wants protection from. And he starts to get into it, and then the sky starts to brighten, and they're like, oh no, time to go home, because we learn that these guys have been told that if vampires are outside during the day, they will burn.
So we know that they've been told a lie.
Mm-hmm.
But before they go home,
You gotta go to Target.
you gotta make your stop.
I understand.
Imagine being in an empty Target.
Incredible.
She should just live there.
She should
Oh my
live there.
gosh. All the books, all the clothes, all the everything. Just live at Target. It's like that movie
dream.
Where the Heart Is.
I love that movie, The Walmart Baby.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, we gotta do a Remember Where the Heart Is episode.
I love that movie
Me
so
too.
much. So they go to Target, and instead of going to the like sports section and getting an actual waterproof bag, which you can buy,
Right.
she just gets like Ziplocs and
Yeah.
shoves all of her books in Zippies
Yeah.
and closes it. But she was a neglected child. She probably never went camping. She
Yeah.
doesn't know that you can buy actual waterproof bags
Probably very true, yeah.
at
She
Target.
zips all her books up, sticks them in a backpack, and then they get back on the roofs and run back to the water, dive in.
She
and
doesn't
start
kill
swimming.
people on the way. She sees people, but she doesn't kill them.
Yeah.
She's awesome. She's a superstar.
And they get in the water, they're swimming, then Diego's like, wanna race? And so then Bree beats him to the other side of wherever they're going, to the land. Is it an island? Probably.
Who knows?
And so they get there, and then Bree goes over to where the house should have been, but she finds that it has been burned down.
Oh no.
Which is a problem, because as far as she knows, she has to get inside for a whole day.
Yeah.
But the house is down. And so this is troubling. She's like, I guess we could lay under the roof.
But Diego has a plan.
He has a plan. No worry, Bree. Follow me, he says.
Love it. Guys, so there's our first, that's pages 1 through 25
Yeah.
of The Short Second Life of Bree Tanner.
Yeah.
She's really cool. And when Stephanie's like, I hope you guys like her, and I'm like, I do, I like her so much.
Mm-hmm.
Stephanie is really good at writing a sad girl.
Yeah, that's true. That's so true. I'll confess to you guys, I do not remember a single thing about this book. The only things I remember, of course, is that Bree eventually dies, because that happens in Eclipse, and that her name is Bree. All of these people are brand new to me. I don't remember anything about this book, so.
Well, I think that you and a lot of our listeners are in the same boat.
Yeah.
And so I cannot wait to talk more about these chapters and to get more into it and learn more about this sweet little baby angel.
Yeah, me
'Kay.
too. Okay, we'll see you guys next week with what pages?
Next week will be pages 26 through 50. Hold on. Got it right here. Let me turn there and then you can edit that. Oh, just 50. No, 51. 26 through 51.
Awesome. So if you're reading along, go ahead and read. And we will catch you guys next week.
Yep. Love you.
Bye.
Bye.